the kind of wisdom which has been taken out of the design practices of the treaties like Maya Mata or Manasar or regional texts such as Manshala Chandrika, where Balagopal sir would have given an extensive knowledge on this yesterday. And then that we had Tantra Samuchaya. So based on this, like we have had those spatial formulation, but at the same time, the architectural detailing or the craftsmanship have played an important role to make our building sustainable to the core. At the same time, like see, this is the fourth pillar which I am thinking about is actually the culture. Why culture was not being considered about? But so right now, like see, the direction have changed. Even the globally, like see, there are researchers which is just come out as actually the role of culture as actually the fourth pillar of sustainability. Because like see, without that, like see, when you are even then there are questions like see whether the culture was part of the social. Then the moment you integrate culture and social together, like see, we are actually diminishing the importance of the social, because like the social has got a lot of other connotations to be handled on. So that this is exactly what our concern was, like see how the cultural aspects has been integral part of the sustainability. And this is actually, there are quite a lot of researches already going on, and we have also published a paper on one of the seminal journal on the role of culture in sustainable development. I'll start on my presentation like CV. I'm just looking at the sustainability aspects of the traditional architecture of Kerala. So bear with me, like see if it is a repetition for you, because most of the information which I'm going to speak about is actually known to you. So when we look at the traditional architecture, like see, you can see that like see, I'm looking at only the domestic buildings. Like see, when you're talking about the traditional architecture, we have got umpteen number of variations, but I'm just looking at only the domestic architecture or the traditional houses. Yeah, so it is we can very safely say listen, aesthetically elegant, structurally advanced, and functionally appropriate build form we had, and we have to try to find out the wisdom out of it and try to inculcate in the current practice. That is what our aim is ultimately. So so the kind of the unique grammar which is actually it's been produced out of this architecture is basically because of the refinement of the craftsmanship we had so far in a small narrow strip of land called Kerala. And we had that several generations of the skilled workmanship, like see, that is actually has been resulted in this kind of a sustained build form what we had so far. And like see, as I told you, like see, the average lifespan is 100 plus years. Like see, 100 plus years is actually very small, I would say. Like see, it should be 400 or 500 plus years. But still, it is on a safer side, we can say that it is 100 plus years. And the kind of design grammar which actually focuses on actually that creates a series of hierarchical transitional spaces to facilitate various human activities. Like see, those who are familiar with the kind of build form we have in Kerala, like see, you know that like how they are actually been articulated the spaces in such a way that it's actually a series of hierarchical spaces from public to private, or say public to semi-public to private spaces. And this actually how this has been happened as like see, it is basically because of the kind of architectural detailing we have had in our traditional buildings. And it is like see that becomes actually taking actually second part, like see the kind of wisdom which has been taken out of the design practices of the treaties like Maya Mata or Manasar or regional texts such as Manshala Chandrika, where Balagopal sir would have given an extensive knowledge on this yesterday. And then that we had Tantra Samuchaya. So based on this, like see, we have had those spatial formulation, but at the same time, the architectural detailing or the craftsmanship have played an important role to make our building sustainable to the core. So see for any residential architecture? See what is the fundamental reason It is basically taming the nature to create a comfortable living environment that is actually achieved through detailing. See, what is the kind of detailing which made the building sustainable? Like, see, one is actually deep overhang roofs, because like see it actually the uniquely detailed in structure specification and the finishing are actually primarily responsible for the taming of nature to provide longevity to the structure's lifespan. It is not just the protecting from the climate, but at the same time that those aspects have actually been is the reason for the longevity of the lifespan of the building. And it has actually we have got varied build forms belong to different economic and socio-cultural groups of people. Like see, be it from the we had a discussion like see whether we have a palatial residential buildings. Like see, we don't have a concept of palace, at least in the northern part of Kerala. We do have the concept of palace in the southern part, not in the northern part of Kerala. Like see, but whatever the palaces, what we were talking about, are all residences. But it's see the kind of the socio-cultural implications on the build form is also quietly evident in the in Kerala architecture. So this is what are my concern is basically like see the sustainability. Like see, we have got three pillars so far actually. So forth, like see, we have been actually established three pillars. Like see, the sustainability is based on the social, economic, and environmental pillars. And but at the same time, like see, this is the fourth pillar which I am thinking about is actually the culture. Why culture was not being considered about? But so right now, like see, the direction have changed. The even the globally, like see, there are researchers which is just come out as actually the role of culture as actually the fourth pillar of sustainability. Because like see, without that, like see, when you are even then there are questions like see whether the culture was part of the social. Then the moment you integrate culture and social together, like see, we are actually diminishing the importance of the social, because like the social has got a lot of other connotations to be handled on. So that this is exactly what the my our concern was like see how this culture, the cultural aspects has been integral part of the sustainability. And this is actually there are quite a lot of research already going on, and we have also published a paper on one of the seminal journal on the role of culture and sustainable development. Yeah, so this is what I'll be looking at it from from this perspective. So when you're looking at the traditional architecture of Kerala, like see, we know that the geographical influence of Kerala have played an important role in the shaping of the architecture. For that matter, like see, that is true with anywhere in the world. So that is like we know that the Kerala is actually a narrow strip of land which is sandwiched between the Arabian Sea and the Western Ghats, and that has given a lot of opportunity as well as like see, because like, see, we never had to fear for any kind of inversion, and almost all the invasions came little later to Kerala, and we have got abundance of water, and so that actually shows in the reflection in the settlement pattern. That is exactly what you will not find any villages which have a conglomeration of buildings and a farm field around it. Rather than we have a system of homestead development where you will have your farm field around your house itself, and you have a huge plots and a house in the center, rather than in the other, like see, when you have it in your neighboring states, like see, be it in Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, like you can find that villages having the conglomeration of houses and a farmland part. Like see, there the settlement was actually been considered as part of the as should have been nearer to a water body or the source of water. In Kerala we never had to look for water, because like see, your water is there, be it in the groundwater or in the surface water. So when you are this kind of a particular geographical location, or the aspects have actually have had blessed with, like we've been blessed with lush green vegetation and the abundance of animal lines and life and the number of rivers. All these things have actually shaped the settlement pattern of Kerala. You will never find this kind of a settlement pattern, and that is actually reflected in the current settlement pattern also. Like see, we have got that urban rural continuum. We don't have a this distinction between urban area and the rural area in Kerala, because like see, it's a continuous urbanization happening. Whether it is good or bad is a different question altogether, because like see, we don't have a hideaway place. Like see, whatever we have, like see, we have been again expanding into it, because like see, we don't have any other option. So that, like, see, we had our human habitat, like, see, that is what I was saying. Like, see, we have had our human habitation primarily at the fertile lowlands and the and sparsely in the mountains, and villages never, we kind of, we cannot say that, like, see, we had a village per se in the this as it was available in the other part of the country. So our villages are, and our towns, though, during those times, whether there was not much of a distinction as it is right now. So those are actually the geographical influences maybe we can we can look into. And of course, climatical influences definitely shape the architecture of any place. Like, see, we know that, like, see, the Kerala's warm humid climate is actually distinguished with the amounts of huge amount of rainfall, and then it's actually the high relative humidity and relatively constant temperature. And that is actually, as actually we have had considerations for the drainage, elevation, ventilation, along with the resistance. Like, see, we had those kind of consideration while we were in our traditional buildings. Like, see, when you have, and that this kind of consideration has actually helped in the longevity of the buildings and the structure, and to get them protect from these kind of conditions. So we have that. So what are those building responses towards the climate? Like, what are those aspects which we maybe just have a look at it. One is actually our roof is, like, basically because of the sloping roof, like, it is not exposed to direct sun. There is always a indirect sun was there because of that, the combinations of the sloping roof, like, see, and our permeable tile roof, like, see, it would have come later because, like, see, earlier that would have been thatched roof. But you see, the concept of the permeability of the roofing system in Kerala would have actually has actually resulted in the cooler indoors, and the and that is actually basically because of the thermal mass. Like, the cooler indoors were actually possible in our the kind of architecture we had. And the rainwater drains faster because of the sloping roof, like, see, another. And all our roofs are actually, the walls were actually painted light in color. Either it's the lime plaster, or the lime was basically used as the material to color our walls. So that's also again that reflects the radiation, and that is actually reduce the indoor temperature of the residential, I mean, of the traditional buildings. And another important thing, like, see, that we have gone for, like, see, though we talk about the cooler interiors, the major complaint we talk about is actually the lights were less. This basically because, like, see, we had fewer openings outside and the towards interior and more into the courtyard. Like, see, most of our residential buildings were having with courtyards. Like, see, the moment it's gone for a chadushala houses, we used to have courtyards. So then these kind of large overhang eaves and the So the large overhang eaves and the external veranda and the internal courtyard actually protected the building from the rain and sun, and the sloping roof and the gables provided kind of have actually enhanced the ventilation within the building, and then that has actually allowed the gable roof has actually allowed the warm air to escape. So we had so many elements which made our space more comfortable for the people who are actually the inhabitants of the places. So then it is the another the when we look at the Nadumuttam, like, see, the open spaces which actually serves as it had multiple purposes. It's actually acting as actually a ventilation source, providing natural light, and as actually serves as a communal area. And most of the see, when you look at our traditional houses, like, see, we have got a research going on the ritualistic homesteads. Like, see, there are houses where, or the spaces where, derived due to the cultural and the ritualistic events of the family. It depends on that. So based on that, like, see, the Nadumuttam has always been a place of interaction, a place of communal area where you meet up with the family members, and then you have a better I mean, it serves as actually a climatic, I mean, it's actually, it had multiple purposes. So then it actually facilitates the flow of air, creates a cooler effect within the structure. And it another important thing which we have found, we have noticed is like see our buildings were often had elevated platforms or the elevated plinth, which is actually been protected from flooding when you're out, depending upon the location of the houses, and it had enhanced ventilation and creating a platform connecting the dwelling with the surrounding landscape. Because like see, we always had a veranda around our house. Like see, that veranda will be, it is not just the in with the covered veranda, even in the uncovered veranda, that is actually act as a place where people will sit and chit chat, and it's got a direct connect to the outside environment. And the kind of wooden elements, like see the pillars, beams, and the intricately carved details add to the visual appeal and contribute to the sense of warmth and the warmth to the entire system. And we have had, like see, we must have noticed, like see, we have used extensively used wood in our construction. So is it sustainable? That's a big question we can always ask. Like say, we will be able to use the same amount of wood right now? We may not be able to use the same amount of wood right now, because we don't have that sustainable practice of harvesting wood. Like see, when you cut a wood, like see, we are not going to plant trees, like see, but there, like see, even if before you're cutting the trees, you're supposed to plant the trees. And we had the concept of the nakshatra vana, where you're supposed to, even the small, when the kids are very small, you're supposed to plant your trees which is actually related to your star or your nakshatra. But that those kind of practices are not right now. Like we are not been trying to use those practices to ensure that whatever the trees or whatever the resources we are using are not getting replaced back to the earth. So we don't have that kind of a sustainable harvesting practices. But then we had the sustainable harvesting practices, and so that we will be able to use wood for the as a sustainable material for the construction. And another aspect of from the material perspective, like so you can see that the walls were made of porous laterite, like especially towards the northern side, not in the southern side. So this material actually helped cool the building, because we had that diurnal temperature reduction is basically because of the porous laterite material. And the thickness actually prevented the radiation from penetrating. And most of the cases they've been used clay as a plastering material. Another porous material that actually directly gives protection. I mean the protection as well as insulation together. And we have had, like see, instead of having huge windows, like see, we have had trellis and the wooden jallies, which will actually bring in filtered light into the interior spaces, which actually has been reduced the temperature inside. And the opposite, like see, we had opposite facing windows and openings enhances cross ventilation and make the indoor comfortable indoor comfortable. Another aspect which we noticed, like see, as I discussed earlier, like see, we have had huge plot sizes rather than the smaller plot sizes. We had huge plot sizes. So what is actually, like see, we have been setting the building in a plot which actually had, we considered the flow of wind to give comfort to the humid climate, and the kind of the building orientation considered factors like the prevailing wind, sunlight angles, and the natural drainage pattern. And this actually ensures the optimal ventilation, natural cooling, and the efficient use of sunlight throughout the day. And the gable windows definitely ventilated the roof after the introduction of the ceiling for the internal chamber spaces. Because we have been doing, like Adira is doing research on the traditional architectural knowledge system. We are trying to find relationship between these kind of elements and the knowledge system there. So once she finished her PhD, we will be able to come out with what exactly those traditional architectural knowledge systems in terms of Kerala architecture is concerned. Yeah, so these till now I was talking about the some of the elements which would have induced, I mean, increased the comfort of the people, and the definitely the comfort of the people have got a lot of bearing on the sustainability aspect. Now let's have a basic look at the, let's see what are the indicators of cultural and sustainable built environment. Whatever I am going to talk about, like these are the indicators. We have been derived out of doing an extensive literature review in the tropical regions of the world, and we have done a lot of review on the kind of different reports which has been published by UNESCO and the other organizations, such organizations. And then from there we have come out with these are the aspects or the indicators of culture that will help to integrate, that help to make sure that it helps in sustainable development. So one is actually the use of local materials and the construction techniques, keeping the housing sustainable. Because it's like, see, most of these locally available material, like see, as we were discussed, like the laterite was used in the northern Kerala, but in the southern Kerala laterites were not available. So what was the building material? There the wood was available, so majority was wood. Wherever the construction, the other construction, they were actually using the mud blocks. Very, I mean, that time the compressed mud blocks, and the mud was actually drawn out of from the site itself. Yeah. And then this effective use of locally available material and building technology in consonance with the nature actually sufficiently decrease the environmental degradation and reduce the burden on the finite resources. Definitely, that is exactly what we are looking at from a sustainability perspective. And renewable and the cost of environment, that will actually these materials actually were renewable, and it will actually reduce the cost of the causes less environmental damages happen. And another aspect which we found is like the architectural elements is another element that reflects the culture and the customs of the society. Like see how the architectural elements are being used. And then another aspect which is actually local and the familiar architectural elements. Like see why this architectural elements is a part of the culture or part of the sustainable development. Like see these familiar architectural elements will actually create a sense of belongingness. See, when you see a similar thing, like see, when you are, even if like see, when you go somewhere else and you see a similar architectural element, like see, you know that okay, this is from our place, and that is actually what we call as actually sense of belongingness. This is ours. So that is also as part of the, like see, when you're thinking about the sustainable development, it's important. So the why cultural factors is important is actually the even the family structures or the cultural values of an area will often will have an influence on the morphology of the settlement or the development of the settlement. It can be taken as actually one of the aspects. Another aspect is visual privacy. Like see, when you're talking about the family structure, like see whether the kind of family structure which we follow, whether Marimakatayam or Marimakatayam, where some area, like see, it is where your female is being given more importance, and the others, like see, the male is being more important. So all these things are getting reflected in the bill form generation or the bill form spatial allocation in the bill form. So that is what, like see, the morphology of the settlement per se has been connected with the kind of family structure you or the cultural values you follow. And then the housing that is actually easily adaptive to changing the needs over time. That's again, it's another aspect which we may consider, that is those kind of buildings are actually sustainable. And so that means, like see, when your building is like that, they are actually flexible and adaptable design of the adaptability of the vernacular buildings it's got a major role in making it sustainable. And then another aspect which we have to consider is like the sustainable building needs to be versatile in climatological, technological, social, and demographical and cultural changes. This is very evident in traditional Kerala domestic architecture. And another special mention is like the cultural interactions. Like see, as I was discussing, like see the ritualistic homesteads where the rituals have decided the spaces, or the formulation of the spaces were based on the rituals. And definitely it might have had different uses right now, but still those reasons for those kind of spaces, and so that actually allows them to perform their religious and the cultural and the recreational activities within when it has been designed based on those ritualistic or the when you're considering the cultural interactions in the building. So when you're some of the aspects which the building design responses in Kerala in terms of the design in terms of the designers actually, one is the spatial the distribution processes and similar planning style, like you can find that in across Kerala similar planning style can be identified, and most of the cases the preferred orientation is to the east. Why prefer the orientation is the basically reason to to get the maximum light from the rising sun to the interior. And this sun has got like even now the it's a known factor that like see that the early morning sun is very good for having a lot of therapeutic values. So to ensure that this light has been entering into the house is what the reason could have been the reason for residences facing east. And another aspect, like see the cattle shed kept in the right in front of the house. You must have seen that. Like see why cattle shed? It should be right in front of the house. Like see the basically Kerala, where like see we were agrarian community where we had respect towards this animals, right? Because like see they were the one who were actually giving us helping us to cultivate our food. So that is basically reason like that attention to animals and the agrarian community aspect has been basically reason for the positioning of cattle shed right in the front. And the Patayapura, it has been it's usually sometimes it has been kept as actually a separate building, usually kept at the southern side. It has got reasons for like see, it can reduce the afternoon harsh sun onto the other spaces within the house, or like see the even if it is the patayam has been also been kept, it should be either in the center, or it's not just right in the center, but at the where like see your harsh sun can be completely avoided. And this will actually this makes the position makes the even the within the house, like the position makes it the patayam being keeping it in a hot position, like hot, like see the to ensure that the grains have been not spoiled. That could have been the reason. And another interesting aspect what we could notice is like see our the common spaces are actually bigger, but our bedrooms were always smaller, because bedrooms were being used only during the night. The residents, the people were actually in the common areas. So it's a bedroom sizes were actually diminutive in size. And another aspect is people had the system of worshipping the Panchabuddha, where you are like see you're supposed, and the well has got sacred aspect has been kept, because like this is basically the drinking water what we are drinking. Like see to ensure our best health, the well has been kept in the northeast part, and usually it will be visible from the front itself. It has been kept sacred. Sacred means like see, it is not. I'm not talking about we are doing puja for that, but still, but it has been kept in a position where the contamination is not getting happened. Make sure that we get a good water to drink. And another thing is like see, we have got linear planning of the openings, like see to ensure clear ventilation. We have cardinal, we along the cardinal directions we keep make sure that the it is no obstructions is being obstructions is being done, so that the ventilation is being uninterrupted. So that ensures the some of our beliefs have actually ensuring a better indoor climatic conditions. And the sizes of the windows were small to reduce the harsh sun, which I have already discussed. And then it is the another interesting aspect of our architecture is actually long veranda that is actually act as actually the transition between the outside to the between the interior and the exterior, and that enhances the visual as well as the thermal comfort of the users. And the courtyard we have already discussed, and we had Kolapura. Not all the houses. but at least those who could afford or who had that financially at a higher position, we had their own kolapura and usually attached to the pond and the site, and we never had the concept of toilet within the house. Like it was always an outside, because like to ensure that we kept away from the water bodies as well. So see, those are the things which would have had, and whether that basic concept of toilet would have also been come up later, not during the earlier time. So these are some of the elements which we can talk about in terms of the cultural aspects integrated into the traditional buildings. So what are the benefits we will be incorporating culture in the sustainable built environment? One is actually the cultural interactions. See, we have had this kind of a bigger common areas or verandas. Like, see, it ensured that the interaction between the family members are were good. Might have had this kind of a hierarchical positions in terms of the head of the family and to the rest of the family, but still we have had this kind of a cultural interactions, and the sense of place and the belongings is another aspect which was considered to be sacred, where and the kind of materials or the elements and the has been used, which has made that place and the belongingness with ensured. And then it's the kind of and the while you integrate these aspects into the building, like it protects the character of the or of a place or a building. Because like see, we have had the traditional building elements like sloping roof, tiled roof, wooden pillars, etc. These are all the elements which actually reflect back or connect us to the traditional architecture, which if at all like see, we are trying to incorporate those elements, like see, that actually protect the character of the place of the building. And of course it has improved the energy efficiency, like see, the natural use of the natural elements, and that actually ensured the climates throughout the year, and that reduces the energy usage. Like see, that those time the energy usage were like see, not the kind of usage what we are talking about right now. But when we have these aspects in our mind while designing right now, we may be able to come up with a lesser energy usage building. And of course the sustainable resource use, because like see, the materials use of materials which is locally available, and that actually reduces the energy and the resources required for the transportation of the materials and resulting in a sustainable sustainable resource use. And this, when we are incorporating these elements in the current architecture, water selection is actually recreating or re-establishing the job opportunities of the traditional craftsmen. We have right now, we won't get those kind of a traditional craftsmen, but still I mean, if at all we wanted to ensure or we wanted to incorporate these elements in our design, that will ensure that we will be able to establish job opportunities for them. And the affordability, the kind of material what we are available when you are using it available within the sites, and with that will definitely achieve the considerable savings on materials and the transportation. And at the end, like see, all so the at the end, like see, what is exactly is been getting, it is basically the sustainable behavioral change, what how we will be able to be humane in designing or the creating buildings. So these are some of the very few aspects which I wanted to share with you. See, when if you want to have a look at this particular image, you know that like how traditional buildings were integrated with nature so seamlessly. We have had modern additions to this to the buildings, but still that is actually part and parcel of life. Like see, we cannot have it, but still how well it has been gelled within the nature is what we should be considering when we are talking about the sustainable aspects of the traditional architecture.